crazy 2 weeks since I received my AstraZeneca vaccine, almost 2 weeks ago tomorrow. First, of course, I got sick, as to be expected, with the fever and the severe joint aches, a terrible headache. But then after my just blood pressure, my whole system just collapsed, so I had trouble even standing up, sitting up, and I was out of work for 3 days, and it took me almost a week to fully recover. I still have a headache every now and then. As soon as I recovered, we received troubling news every day, horror news about the vaccine causing thrombosis and embolisms, and the vaccine was banned. And all the while this was happening, my son was quarantined with his whole grade 8 weeks before his A-levels, because there are 2 British mutation cases in his grade. So as a measure of precaution, they have put the whole grade in quarantine, which makes sense, but it's very challenging for him and also for the whole family, especially for me as a mother, to keep him happy and convince him that this is the right thing to stay at home at 17 years old. I really needed some soul food, so sorry, this is not a vegan recipe. This is a classic German, actually it's a poppy strudel recipe with a yeast dough, but I transformed this classic dough into a treat with a modern look. And look at this. I'm going to show you how to make this. Only half is left. How to make this insanely yummy yeast dough pastry star with an amazing, mind-blowing nut filling, with amazing spices, and with a decadent, to die for glaze that should be forbidden. So let's go over the ingredients first. And the ingredients for my yeast dough are 150 grams of butter, 250 milliliters of milk. I don't use cow's milk, so this is coconut milk. 1 cube of fresh yeast, 60 grams of sugar, 2 egg yolks, and 600 grams of flour. I'm using spelt, a pinch of salt, and in this case I'm using a bit of rum for flavoring. Then we're going to put everything into the Thermomix and let the Thermomix do its magic. Turn this into a yeast dough and let it rest for 1.5 hours. So let's look at this baby here. Beautiful, soft, silky yeast dough. And this is going to rest for 1.5 hours, as I said. And I just had to show you how my beautiful dough is peeping through the hole right here after 45 minutes only. And for the filling, we need some nuts that I will chop finely, some sweetener in the form of brown sugar here and maple just for the flavor, some cinnamon, some vanilla extract, and again, some rum for aroma. Okay guys, you will first have to excuse my nails. They turn terrible after 2 days in the kitchen and I just cannot keep up doing them. So this is my dough here and this is my filling. So a word on the filling, it's gone brown because I added some cocoa. I thought that would be nice because we want to have some kind of a contrast when I make this pastry flour or whatever you want to call it, or sun. And then since the filling is kind of smooth, I added some chopped Brazil nuts, just enough so that when you have your share of the cake you won't overdose on selenium. And if your filling is too thick to maybe tear this tender dough, you can just add more milk, which I will do right now. And if you watch closely, you also saw me sneak some lady fingers in my filling that I just had to get rid of. Okay, I will show you 2 ways of dealing with this dough. The first will be something I learned from Turkish cuisine, and you can just shape all of your dough into balls And then roll them out and form these beautiful, I don't know what you call them in English, something like a croissant. Just need a bit of flour, or you can oil it as well. All right, so what you do is roll out a tiny amount of the dough in an oval shape, as thinly as possible. Sorry, too much dough here. Very thin, like a pizza or something. Make sure you keep this oval shape. And then you need a sharp knife, and you take some of your filling and you place it on the upper part, say about a tablespoon. And then you close it like this. Should have done it the other way around so you can watch. And then you just cut strips here, 4 or 5. And then make sure you have clean hands. Don't want any of the filling to ruin the outside. And then you roll this baby. And when you're done rolling, you close the ends very tightly. They tend to loosen back up when you bake them, and you get this beautiful shape like that. Okay, and this is how you put it in the oven. But today I want to do this flour, so this is just something to consider. You can do it like this, or you can just do it the way I do it today, and that will save you. Our nut-filled pastry flour or star. It was a bit of a drag because the dough is very tender and delicate, but that makes it the more juicy later and moist. Normally I roll the dough. I just spread it on and then I roll it, and then this is something you do in Germany, you know, just roll it in one piece and then slice it once it's baked. Now let's take off the middle part of our sun or star, and isn't it beautiful? And you may wonder why I'm not brushing this with some egg wash now, but that's because I plan on brushing an extra decadent kind of glaze on there once it's done. This is going in a 180 degrees oven for about 30 minutes. And with the rest of the dough, I'm going to show you yet another variant of what you can do with this beautiful dough. Now, if you feel like putting in a little more work, then you roll this into a rectangle. I know this is not a perfect rectangle, but it doesn't matter. Just roughly. And this is about 10 centimeters by 20. And now I'm going to spread on some filling. Like that. And then you pretty much do the same thing as you would do with any babka, but we're going to roll this into a, what we call a knot or a wreath or something like that. Okay, so you roll this from the long side up. This works a lot better when your dough is frozen, or like not frozen, but bit frozen if you pop this into your freezer. But you already know the drill from my babka video, and then you cut this, slice this lengthwise, and make sure you keep it together here where you start, and then you can just, oh look at that, beautiful, just fold the strands on top of each other to expose the filling. And when you're done, tightly pinch the ends and form this into a wreath, or whatever you call it in English, something like that. I know this doesn't look that pretty now, so that's why I didn't really want to do those. They kind of turn messy when you're doing them for the first time, like I'm doing right now with this a little bit. But yeah, this baby's going in the oven along with the rest of them. And for my glaze, I have a concoction that I just conjured up in my head. My after vaccine, corona vaccine head, so forgive me. I'm putting in 200 milliliters of cream. You may wonder, why is she not using cow's milk, but then she's using cream for the glaze? I don't know, I can't tell you. I just hate the taste of cow's milk, and I don't think it's particularly healthy. Neither is probably cream, but hey, it's Easter and we want to be decadent. Now we're going to add a teaspoon of coffee and heat the whole thing up in the microwave so that the instant coffee can dissolve. I'm also adding a pinch of cinnamon. Remember, this is going all over the cake, so don't be shy. And for flavor, how about 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. Now we're going to heat this up and stir it again. So this is our glaze that was in a microwave, and the cream has even thickened up a bit. And make sure you keep this ready for the minute your pastry comes out of the oven, so we can coat it immediately, and so it will permeate the freshly baked dough. If you want to keep this vegan, you could use my babka dough for the pastry dough, from my babka recipe, and then you could make this glaze simply with some coconut, rice, or whatever plant cream, but I used dairy cream in this recipe. The flavors are off the charts. Again, this combination of maple and coffee is killing me softly. And now I'm going to take it to another level and add some cardamom, which is one of my... And the final moment has arrived. I've pulled this sun or star out of the oven. It really is a star. You should smell it. And now, I took some pictures before I'm going to ruin the looks of it with this glaze, but oh, the taste. Now, brush this glaze onto your pastry and let it permeate. It's going to make it really, really juicy. Almost like some kind of cinnamon rolls, you know, but just in a different shape. If you don't like coffee, omit it by all means. Mark my words, this Easter treat is deliciously addictive. It is insanely yummy. You will want to have it every day, not just for Easter, trust me. It is so moist and fluffy, and it is still warm, so this is best eaten when it's warm. Yeast pastries or yeast dough tends to get tougher when it cools down, so make sure you eat this while it's still warm. And if it cools down, maybe you can just pop it back in the oven for a bit, or even in the microwave for a few seconds to get it nice and fluffy again. And this wraps up today's edition of a really, really yummy Easter treat gone modern. Classic dough, yeast dough filled with an amazing nut filling with spices and a very juicy, tempting glaze. I hope you will try this at home. There are so many variants you can do. You can do this kind. You can do that one that I showed you. It didn't turn out the way it usually does. The lines are a bit blurred, but you've got the technique. You can do this beautiful star of flour, or you can simply do the classic German way. You just make 3 rolls and then you braid it all up into a big plate and then bake it and slice it. So whatever floats your boat. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have an amazing Easter, and stay safe. See you again.